I'm not gonna lie, Plants vs. Zombies as D&D Monsters wasn't an episode I anticipated doing a sequel to. But so many people seem to be enjoying that video, and I really enjoyed making it, so I figured, why not do a second round? And, yeah, not really much more to the intro, so let's just get into it, shall we? Let's go! Hit like, if you want. Subscribe, if you feel like. But either way, enjoy the show. The Naborian swamp was at war. The undead brawled against beasts and monsters day and night for the territory. Once a peaceful land housing a thriving community, now being defended by a small but determined faction led by one man, Krzysztof Davidsworth. He was a man with a bit of an addled mind, but his summoning abilities were the only thing keeping his foe, the Necromancer Zombos, from taking over the territory and turning it into his own dark domain. The Necromancer was a man who pulls into question our very definition of the term monster. In one regard, Krzysztof is the one whose army is full of what we generally refer to as monsters, but Zombos, being a man so determined to overthrow an innocent swampland by raising an army of the dead, is arguably more fitting of the title. And beyond that, he's had to summon so much dark magic to continue raising more and more of the dead to fight against Krzysztof that his appearance has started to resemble that of the decaying beings he summons. His own life force is slowly being drained in his rituals, and soon he'll be indistinguishable from the zombies in his army, save perhaps for his unusually large head. One would have thought that he'd learned his lesson after months of warring with Krzysztof, that the batty Beastmaster's defenses are impenetrable, but still Zombos persists, seemingly set now on defeating his foe or losing himself in the process. Now, as you can probably tell from the way I wrote that opening lore, I acknowledge that this drawing technically isn't a monster, even though I'm probably calling this D&D Monsters Part 2. But, a lot of people had asked that I draw a zombie if I did a follow-up episode, so I was like, alright, I might as well draw the leader of the zombie army in this story, Zombos. I really like the idea of having him summoning a zombie hand from the ground, doing that classic, iconic sort of zombie imagery, and I, just thought it would be fun to draw him in general, and I kinda made him look a little bit Assassin's Creed-like, unintentionally, because he's got, a white hood and white outfit. I was trying to match the colors for him from the game, and in a lot of cases, necromancers that I was looking at images of will have a lot darker clothing, maybe like a dark purple or black robes, but like I said, I wanted to match his colors in the game to make it look more like him. I still like the drawing, but maybe he doesn't look so necromancer-like in terms of the outfit that I gave him. Also, lots of people have been asking me to do some kind of zombie-focused episode lately anyway, not just Plants vs. Zombies, but just zombies in general. I think partially because, for one thing, October's coming up, lots of people asking for some fun, spooky kind of episodes. But also because the Marvel What If Zombies episode came out a couple weeks ago, so I think that kind of re-stirred zombies in a lot of people's imaginations and minds and stuff. It's definitely something I'm open to considering. I've got a few spooky sort of episodes that I'm trying to plan out for October. But anyway, that's all to come later. For now, let's take a look at the finished version of this drawing. Now, Krzysztof in his army as of late has focused much of his fighting power on creatures who can attack his foes from afar, some of which we'll look at later, but there is always the need to have a last line of defense, to have creatures perched on the land immediately surrounding his home. For if he were to lose his home, Krzysztof would truly lose his drive and hope that he could indeed win this war, or that it was even worth winning at all. And so, one of the brooding creatures he often keeps sat nearby is the ogre squash. It's a 12-foot tall beast with a fairly basic appearance. It's green and bulky with a perpetual scowl stamped on its face. It doesn't move much and will rarely pick itself up to fight anything, even when a battle is occurring mere meters away. But if one of the Necromancer's forces gets too close to the ogre, that's when you can be assured that the whole swamp is about to be shaken. These creatures, when threatened, will reel back, leap from the earth a shocking height for their mass, and slam down onto the approaching foe with the impact of a meteorite. The quakes they cause can often be felt throughout the battlefield by warriors on both sides, reminding all not to mess with the ogre squash. He's not friendly, he's not versatile, but he's proven an essential asset in Krastov's forces for his swift brutality when provoked. Now, something interesting happened while I was drawing this creature, and that's that halfway through the inking, I realized that I had my ink brush set to, like, double what it usually is in terms of thickness. And in doing that, I kind of realized that I don't really take full advantage of how much pressure sensitivity my Cintiq has. Like, I can really change the thickness of the line when I have the line set higher. I usually have it set down at, like, between 20 and 30, which I don't really know what that measurement is. Maybe it's pixel dimension or something. But yeah, I usually have it set between 20 and 30, and that means the thickest it can go is 30 or so. But when I had it set higher, there's just way more pressure sensitivity, there's way more variety in the lines. And in looking how this one turned out, I really like the line weight variety. Like, the black thick outline around him is a bit thicker than I'd usually do, or even if it's not thicker than I'd usually do, it was more easy to do it thicker because I just had the pen set thicker. So I think I might start keeping the pen set up at like around 60 or something now, because I just really liked how the inking process went for this one. And it's funny because back, say, a year and a half ago, I used to always have my pen set down to like 8. Then I eventually brought it up to 20, then 30, and now here I am setting it higher. So maybe for my next drawing I should set it at like 100 or something and see how that goes. That might be a little bit much, but might be worth a try. Anyway, besides that, I really like how this character turns out. It's simple, but I like it. It almost looks a little bit like if Thanos and Hulk had a really gnarly looking baby, and I think that's pretty fun. Anyway, hope you all like it. Let's take a look at the finished result. Now, of course, as said, the creatures of most use in Davidsworth's army are ones that can attack foes from afar, though some can be dangerous to even his own objectives. The Snapvathier is one that Davidsworth is often hesitant to call upon, but will summon when he feels it absolutely necessary. The creature is a species of Amphitheer, dragons with no arms or legs, somewhat like a monstrous fire-breathing snake with wings. And the fire-breathing is what causes concern. Fire is incredibly effective against the undead forces of Zombos. The Snapvathier can shoot massive waves of flames to decimate the lumbering brutes before they get anywhere near Krastov's stronghold. The problem is the flames can also obviously be dangerous to the swamplands. Luckily, the swamp is a very wet environment, which helps protect some of the natural plant life from the flames, but there is still significant risk of starting a swamp fire when this creature blasts its flames. If a raging fire were to overtake the swamps, it could significantly harm the other creatures in Krastov's army. Not to mention, it could make the swamplands uninhabitable and make the whole war moot. Still, in many cases, these creatures are necessary risks to take. They can observe the battle from afar to assess the oncoming threat and swoop down to roast whole waves of foes in a single swipe, killing off dozens of zombies or in the least weakening them to make easy pickings for the other creatures in Krastov's army. Now with this one, I hadn't originally anticipated to make it an Amphitheer, but, you know, I was gonna make it a Wyvern, because I love Wyverns, they're my favorite kind of dragon, as I've said many times, but admittedly I was a little bit distracted as I was doing the roughing for this creature, and then I was having a hard time getting the exact leg pose that I wanted. I wanted that sort of kicked up leg pose where it's about to grab at something, which is one that I do struggle with. I've done it successfully a few times, but even with that, I have a hard time getting it right. And then eventually I was just like, I'm just gonna make it an Amphitheer, and I think that kind of works for this. It almost looks like it would be a little bit aquatic, because it kind of looks like I gave it flippers or something like that as in place of its legs. But overall, I think it still does a good job representing the creature that I was adapting, which, by the way, the reason I was kind of more prompted to do this video is, I mean, partially because lots of people did seem to want a sequel, but also because I saw a few people suggesting that I do the Snapdragon, which, as someone who mostly only played Plants vs. Zombies 1 back when it was first released, I played it a whole bunch, and didn't get as much into the second game, I didn't actually know that the Snapdragon was a thing, and when I looked it up, I was like, oh my god, there was a dragon in this game, and I didn't use that, me? So I was like, okay, for a sequel, I kind of have to do the dragon creature from Plants vs. Zombies. And I'm definitely glad I did, even though it didn't turn out the exact way I was originally anticipating. I really like how the drawing turned out. Not a super exciting composition, but I don't think it really needed to be. I like the design of it. And of course, I hope you all like it as well. I say that a lot as I'm finishing these rants. I mean, I feel like that's probably, it probably goes without saying that I hope you all like it. So maybe I should stop saying that, but whatever. Let's take a look at the finished result. Another of the most useful creatures in Crazedorf's arsenal are the awakened cacti. As their name suggests, they are sentient, moving cactus creatures, with lethal spines jutting from their hides and maws. They can not only batter foes with limbs riddled with spikes to cause serious damage, but most useful is their ability to spit cactus needles from their mouths like a barrage of deadly darts. These darts can pin zombies to trees to make them easier targets, or just straight up slay them in their own right. These creatures have proven most useful during a battle in which the Dark Necromancer attempted to attack from above by sending a wave of his undead in a hot air balloon he'd crafted. All the Snapfathiers were preoccupied with other issues, and many of the creatures who could strike foes from afar with projectiles didn't have the range to take down the balloon. Luckily, the awakened cacti's needles can fly at high speeds for miles, and were the perfect thing to puncture the balloon and send it crashing to the ground, where all the zombies on board were quickly wiped out. It was a triumphant battle that couldn't have been won without these spiky creatures. With Davidsworth's abilities growing, able to summon more and more monsters, paired with the fact that many who'd fled his village are returning to aid in his efforts, soon they'll likely prove too much for the cruel Necromancer. The swamp will be saved, and who knows, perhaps Davidsworth will then venture off to help other troubled cities across the world. Gothalo, Gibraltar, Mushros, who knows? His life will have infinite possibility once the Dark Necromancer is finally defeated. Now, I don't totally love this drawing. In fact, there are a lot of things that I really don't like about it, but I don't like in my videos just straight up tearing into one of my own pieces. And that's not because I don't like being self-critical or something. Hopefully anyone who watches this channel knows that I'm perfectly happy looking at my artwork and going, okay, I think I could have done that better, I think I could have done that better, I want to try doing this in the future to improve things. But I don't like tearing into my own artwork in a video, because if someone is actively trying to get better and better at their artwork, and they're watching this video and they're not at a point where they're making the kind of art that I'm making, I don't want to look at one of my less good drawings and say, oh, this sucks, this is garbage, because maybe they've just drawn something that they really like, and they look at this thing and go, oh, that's better than what I've just drawn, and I really like what I've just drawn, but you're saying this is terrible, and it can make them feel bad about their own artwork. And I never want anyone to feel like I'm tearing someone down by criticizing my own work, if that makes sense. I don't know if I fully expressed that well, but really the main thing is I just want to make sure everything about this channel encourages people to keep working on their art and keep trying to get better, and never discourages anyone and makes them feel like they're not doing a good enough job yet. Hopefully everything about this channel screams to people, hey, if you put in the work and you keep enjoying trying to get better and better, you can make a really good living as an artist and have a lot of fun with your job in the future. I mean, lots of people were watching this channel back when it was my side hustle and I was building it while working full-time as an animator, and now I'm literally making twice as much money off of this channel as I was as a full-time animator. So I really want everything about this channel to scream, hey, if you put in the work, literally anybody can do this. Anyone can get to a point where their art is what they want it to look like, in most cases, not so much in this drawing. But even when you get to a point where you're loving a lot of your work, there'll still be times where you make stuff that you're like, this isn't great. This was supposed to be a more coherent rant to encourage people to keep working on their art and keep up hope that you can have a really awesome job in the arts, but it kind of deteriorated and I lost my full train of thought, but hopefully there was something inspiring in there. Anyway, I don't really like this drawing, but if you like it, that's great. Anyway, let's take a look at how it finished up. Well, there you have it. I'd say that's a mostly successful second round. Fruit Punch is weird, but also pretty great suggestion for a video. I guess I'd be open to doing a third round. I mean, that feels like it's pushing it a little bit. I feel like I've used all my best ideas. But maybe I could do something similar, like a different video game as D&D monsters, or just as D&D characters in general. Let me know what you'd like in the comments, or just any other suggestions. I'm open to whatever. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen the first episode of this, make sure to go and check that out. Or if you just want more video game kind of stuff, I recently did an episode fusing Five Nights at Freddy's and Friday Night Funkin'. Quite pleased with how that one turned out. But besides that, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the Nerdy Start videos on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you all in the next episode on Monday. I mean, not necessarily all of you, but whoever wants. I don't like being presumptuous, but I guess I kind of have that built into my outro. Whatever. Anyway, goodbye, everyone.